Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So it's the final day of Cheltenham tomorrow. The ratings will be available for everybody to have a look at. So do have a look at the ratings. You obviously all the other cards as well, but I think most people will be concentrating on Cheltenham. So let's get stuck into day 4. We start off with the Triumph Hurdle. Now, in my previous video for premium members, I explained why I felt Lossiemouth is the one to beat here and the number one, not Blood Destiny. And that's because Willie Mullins knows what type of horse he has, and he generally targets the same horses at the same races, like his number ones at the same races. So, for example, Vauban last year came from running at Leopardstown. Lossiemouth is coming from running at Leopardstown. Why didn't they run Blood Destiny at Leopardstown? Blood Destiny was running at Fairyhouse. Okay, he was winning, but the previous winners of that race, for example, White Pepper and Willie Mullins actually ran Fay the year before. Tiapu won it for Gordon Elliott. Willie Mullins ran Yumdor. Now, okay, that was a decent race, but Yumdor's actually not gone on since that. Wolf Prince, Willie Mullins didn't run one. Surin won it for Gordon Elliott. In behind for Willie Mullins was La Soralita. Do you remember any of these? Michuca. It's not the top quality juveniles that ran at Fairyhouse that Blood Destiny ran at. And that just means, tells me, or this is what I always look at, is that the same trainer will run his best horses in the same type of races because he knows what it takes to win it. And that's why I think Lossiemouth, because she's been running in all of the right races, and she was very unlucky last time. I mean, she got beat by Gala Marceau last time, not by far. What was it in the end? 2.5 lengths. 2.5 lengths. When I think it was Jour de Fête, another Rich Richie horse, just pushed Lossiemouth all the way back by falling away far too quickly. They weren't expecting Jour de Fête to just drop away, and she did, and took Lossiemouth back with her. Lossiemouth then made an amazing effort to come around the outside to try and get involved. Didn't run down Gala Marceau, but the fact that Gala Marceau is still the third favourite, and if you look at the R figures, I mean, it's just out of those three, isn't it? None of the others are going to do anything. I think if Jagard for Willie Mullins was really that good, she would have been already out. Similar for Gypcott, I think Ben would have at least run him. This is Lossiemouth versus Blood Destiny for me. I think Gala Marceau will run well, but I don't think she'll confirm the form with Lossiemouth. The other thing, Blood Destiny is being ridden by Patrick Mullins, so Paul would have got the choice, and he chose Lossiemouth. Now, Patrick Mullins has a habit of, he rides horses from the back well, but he's not as good when they need to be prominent. And Blood Destiny is not one that needs to be dropped out the back. Blood Destiny needs to be going forward. Probably Lossiemouth, if they were riding Lossiemouth, she could potentially be dropped out a little bit further back. But yeah, I think Paul would have picked Patrick's going to ride Blood Destiny. He might give him too much to do, or he might try and ride up with the pace, and that's actually not where he's at his best, Patrick Mullins. So I'm quite, confident on Lossiemouth will take all the beating here, and should go off favourite. Moving on to the County Hurdle. Now, we've got a big price one in this that we've highlighted, and there's two others that are interesting. The big price one we'll start off with is Glory and Fortune. I mean, if you look at the R figures, that's one way of having a quick idea. And this 170.3 is a good effort, went 5th in the Champion Hurdle last year. Glory and Fortune was running in the Champion Hurdle, finishing 5th, beaten only 8 3/4 lengths in the Champion Hurdle. That's good form. The other bit of form that I think gives him a great chance was his previous run to that, where he won the Betfair Hurdle, beating I Like to Move It and First Street. Now, I Like to Move It disappointed in the Champion Hurdle yesterday, and First Street is also in this race. But if we look at their handicap marks, I Like to Move It and First Street that day were running off I like to move it around off 138. Yesterday was rated 157, £19. First Street that day was running off 141. Will run off 152, £11 higher. So £11 and £18, I think I said. Glory and Fortune was running off 143 that day when winning the Betfair Hurdle, and tomorrow runs off 144. So just the £1 higher. The two that it beat are still £11 and £18 higher. Glory and Fortune is just one. He has also got a win to his name at Cheltenham, so you know the course isn't an issue when winning a bumper on his very first start for Tom Lacey. But as I said, he's also got that good Cheltenham form in the Champion Hurdle last year, and yeah, if they go like the Clappers here and he's held up right out the back and waited with, I think he could be very interesting weaving his way through late on. The two at shorter prices is the angle of which one is the best one. So for me, Willie Mullins wins this race with one of two horses. Either a horse that is former Champion Hurdle class dropping down into handicap, which he doesn't mind doing, whereas some of the others, there's other horses that haven't been doing that. This week, Thunder Rock should have been in the Old Teamer. Even Epatante should have been running in this race, the County Hurdle. Another one was McFabulous, should have been running in the 2.5 handicap, and Montmoral could have been running in the 2.5 mile handicap. Instead, they always seem to stick at these graded races. They don't, they finish third and fourth and don't really get anything from it. So anyway, back to these types of horses. So we've got Sharjah, who's dropping down into this grade. His efforts behind Stateman, for example, at the beginning of the season, when he was second to Stateman, beaten 4 lengths, that's probably good form. That might have got him maybe third or fourth in the Champion Hurdle, which is probably really good form. Again, he was then third behind Stateman and Vauban. Vauban didn't run bad in the Champion Hurdle, finished fourth. Sharjah still has plenty of ability. It was disappointing last time when he got beat by Phil Dorr, but that means that that gave them the idea that actually we're not going to waste our time running in the Champion Hurdle for 4th or 5th. Let's go for the County Hurdle. Off top weight, and Patrick takes the ride. Now, I've just mentioned that I'm not a fan of Patrick when he has to ride a horse from the front, but Sharjah is not that horse. Sharjah will be weighted with out the back and hopefully be weaving his way through late on. So he's very, very interesting, Sharjah. And the other one is Hunter's Yarn, the other Willie Mullins horse. So Willie Mullins either wins this with a horse coming back from Champion Hurdle or back from graded races into County Hurdle, or a novice that still has a lot more to come. And Hunter's Yarn could be that. He's an interesting horse, and they've kind of had a weird campaign with him. When he moved to Willie Mullins in November of 2021, he actually ran in a 2 mile 5 maiden hurdle and disappointed. He finished 4th. Now, after that, they then returned to bumpers at the beginning of 2022 in March and April, where he won them both, and then they went back over hurdles. They ran him over 2 mile at Punchestown on his return this season, and it didn't work. He finished 3rd. But then the last 2 efforts have been much better. A 13-length win at Naas, and then a 6-length win at Navan in a listed hurdle. Now, there could still be more to come from Hunter's Yarn. He could be one that actually, he's a 155 rated horse, whereas he's only running here off 147. The defeat earlier this season could end up being very, very useful for him in the fact that he's not got a rating that is probably maybe what he deserves a bit more because he didn't win. They looked at it and went, he's had 4 runs in hurdles, 2 of them he's been beaten, so we can't give him a 150 plus mark, and he's only got 147. Paul takes the ride. I think he'll go really well, and I think he'll run a big race. So I think they're the 3 that I'm interested in, mainly in the County Hurdle. Hunter's Yarn at 11 to 2, Sharjah 8s and 9s, and the other one, Glory and Fortune, is a big price at 50s. I think if we can forgive him, if he can go back to his former Newbury, then I think he's got a very, very good chance. Moving on to the Albert Bartlett, it's not a race I like. There's only one horse I have done in this race, and that is Favre de Champdou, purely because I backed him in the Martin Pipe as well, and he's not running in that. I think he would have been really well handicapped off 141. He runs in this instead, and to be fair, looking at the official ratings of his rivals, you know, he's there or thereabouts. Embassy Gardens 146, Corbett Cross 148. So he's not got to give too much away. The one that's very interesting looking at the R figures is definitely this Let's Be Clear About It. Now, I think I remember tweeting way back in 2020 that I thought his bumper form was very, very good. He hasn't quite gone on from that. His second to Sir Gerhard at Navan was a good effort. His second to Kilcruit at the time was a good effort. This season, you know, he's still managed to keep his novice status, and only finally won his first race over hurdles last time, when making all of the running and winning over 3 mile. Is that enough to now really put himself in contention? I'm not so sure. So I'm only going to be doing, or have done, Favre de Champdou in this, and he is currently 10s and 11s. Corbett's Cross is obviously very interesting. The fact that they dropped him back to 2 mile last time, and yet he still won. He won over 3 mile. They then dropped him back to 2, probably thinking, you know, we're not going to give him a hard race. We don't want to leave everything at wherever it was. Nace, they didn't, and he won. And JP's obviously purchased him recently. He purchased a Dream to Share after he beat a JP horse, and Corbett's Cross did something similar, I'm going to say. Corbett's Cross beat Founder 50, who's not a JP horse. I think if JP buys a horse that beats a JP horse, then you have to be very, very interested. Yeah, so I'm only interested in Favre de Champdou there as a bet. I'll be watching this race with the future in mind, really. Moving on to the Gold Cup. Now, there's 2 in this at bigger prices that I think can run big races. I think they're overpriced. And there's one here that I'm quite keen on, and I'm getting more and more keen on him throughout this week. So the 2 at bigger prices that I think are overpriced. Manella Indo, we know he likes Cheltenham. First second is his Cheltenham form. And last year, with Robbie Power on board, he went way too early in the Gold Cup. Got beat 15 lengths in the end by A Plus Tard, but still held on from Protectorat, Galvin, Royal Pagaille, Album Photo. You know, they were all still behind, despite, you know, you'd suggest that they should have gone past him, really. Mark Walsh on board this year. I think he's just got to be more patient aboard him. He is 10 now, so that would be a negative about him. But I think he can run well, and it wouldn't surprise me if he finishes in the first 5. Second horse I think is overpriced is a Hoisinor. What price would Lompress be if he turned up here? Lompress beat a Hoisinor in the Brown Advisory last year. And if you actually go back and watch the race, Lompress jumped beautifully. A Hoisinor jumped terribly. And yet there was only 3.5 lengths between them. If you actually took that, if you took those jumping errors away from a Hoisinor, in my opinion, beats Lompress. And I know he still has those jumping issues. But I mean, he's only been to Cheltenham twice. He finished 2nd in the Brown Advisory, and he won last time, beating Sounds Russian, Noble Yates and Protectorat. Well, Noble Yates is here at 9s, Protectorat is 14s, a Hoisinor is out to 20s. That doesn't really make sense. I would have a Hoisinor much shorter price. I think he can confirm the form with Protectorat and Noble Yates, and I think he'll finish in the top 5 as well. It's all about his jumping. If he gets into a good rhythm, I actually think he's got plenty of ability. But the horse that I'm getting more and more keen on this week is A Plus Tard. There's no way that Henry de Bromhead would be bringing A Plus Tard here if he wasn't ready. And we've got to remember, earlier this week he had another horse that didn't look like she was in the best of form, and yet she still won quite comfortably in the end, Honeysuckle. Henry's also had another winner yesterday with Mascada. So his horses are going okay. Captain Guinness ran a good race in the Queen Mother. In the Pocket ran okay, and the Supreme even. So yeah, I think Henry would not be running A Plus Tard if he was not ready to give a good account of himself. And I think he's the one to beat, personally, because Brave Man's Game, I'm not sure about the trip, and I'm definitely not sure about the trip for Galopin Des Champs. I think he might go a bit nuts and run himself into the ground, whereas if you watched A Plus Tard, how he won the race last year, he was the strongest at the finish, much stronger than anything else, whereas I think Brave Man's Game and Galopin Des Champs could be the opposite. They could be the ones that just start to get tired, and that will really help A Plus Tard. So A Plus Tard is my main one in this Gold Cup. Moving on to the Fox Hunters, I don't really want to have a bet in this race, so I'm going to have one bet on Billaway, a really small one, purely because he won it last year, he's top rated, and Patrick will have to give him a good ride again. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a good Fox Hunters, but I mean, I don't really have any angles in it this year. So quickly on to the Mares Chase. I'm just going for Impervious here. I think Impervious was very good last time out, beating Journey With Me and what was it, Manila Crooner. I think JP bought Impervious at some point, didn't he? Did he beat when it beat one of his own? Beat Dino Blue. Now Dino Blue should have won the Grand Annual yesterday, but for 2 mistakes at the last 2. And I think JP knew that Dino Blue was very good. And as I said, should have won the Grand Annual. And with that in mind, after Impervious beat Dino Blue, he then went, wow, Impervious must be very good, I'm going to buy Impervious. Rosie's Hollow was back in 3rd, another JP horse. And yeah, if a JP beats a JP, if a horse beats a JP horse and then he goes and buys it, they're very, very interesting. And this is the one here, Impervious. Yeah, it probably wasn't as good last time when beating Journey With Me, but I'm sure that wasn't the main target. The main target would have been this race here at Cheltenham. And the final race of the day and of Cheltenham is the Martin Pipe Conditional Jockeys. And there's 3 I like here, and there's one that I'm going to have to leave alone because I can't have too many in the race. So, the horses I like are RTR2, Iroko. I think this R figure is not inflated. I think it was a very, very good run at Wetherby. It was a good run at Wetherby the time before. I think they've been very careful with Iroko, with smaller connections. So Oliver Greeno and Josh Guerrero, but owned by JP McManus. Now, he wouldn't leave it with Oliver Greeno and Josh Guerrero if he didn't think they could do something with it. And I also think by leaving it with them two and not moving it to a bigger trainer, he's been able to get the price for a long time about Iroko. The price is now starting to go. You can see that he's down to 8s, 15 to 2. You can get 9s at William Hill. Hasn't run for 62 days. They've been very quiet on Iroko. He's like that novice that could still be well ahead of his mark. And I'm quite keen on Iroko with Aidan Kelly on board. Only a 5-year-old as well. The second horse that I think the trip, everything about this is perfect, is Might Eye. Now, Might Eye got beat last year by Constitution Hill, got beat by John Bon, got beat by 3 Stripe Life. That's all really good form. Then went to Haydock at the beginning of the season over 3 mile, went off the 100 to 30 favourite, pulled too hard, faded, dropped away. Then last time out, having run over 3 mile and pulled and sat in about 2nd or 3rd, last time out they dropped him back to 2 mile and went to the back of the field. Didn't understand that at all. In hindsight, it might work out perfectly because he only went up £3 for finishing 2nd. I think if he'd sat in mid-division, he would have won, and then wouldn't have got into this race. He does get into this race. Lorcan knows the horse well. This will be his 6th ride on the horse. And yeah, off the ceiling 145 mark, I think Might Eye has everything in his favour here to run a really big race. And the third horse I like in this race is, I don't know. Oh yes, I do. Cool Survivor. The angle on Cool Survivor here. Now, Gordon Elliott could have run Cool Survivor or Favori de Champs doing this race. He's gone for Cool Survivor. Cool Survivor finished 4th last time, not beaten far by Goodland. And he was 2nd the time before that behind Hidden Valley Lake, who's got a good chance in the Albert Bartlett. Now into a handicap for Cool Survivor. He only gets 140. He's not right at the top. And the Gigginstown Gordon Elliott angle in this race is massive. Last year, they didn't have one. 2021, they had Dallas de Picton, who was 5th, and they had Frontal Assault, who was 8th. So they ran quite well. The year before that, they had, they had the one that, Column of Fire, who went off the 13-2, like second favourite I think it was going to win when he came down at the last. The year before that, they had Dallas de Picton and Defi Bleu. They finished 2nd and 3rd. The year before that, they had Blow by Blow, who won. The year before that, they had Champagne Classic, who won. The year before that, they didn't have one. 2015, they had, did they have Noble Inverter? No, they didn't. 2014, they didn't have Don Polly either. That wasn't him. Gordon Elliott. He's got one more, I'm sure. Sir Deschamps, maybe? Have I gone back too far? Toner Duderie finished 2nd. Sir Deschamps in 2011 wasn't, ignore that one, that's not Gigginstown. But Gigginstown do like this race. With Gordon Elliott, they go really well. He's dropped him down from handicap, from graded races to handicap company. He could have, he had multiple in this race that had a chance. I think that's his best chance is Cool Survivor. So Cool Survivor, Iroko and Mai Tai are the 3 that I'm really keen on. The one I will absolutely kick myself if he wins is the one with these 2 IR figures. 50 Ball. 50 Ball sneaks into the bottom, and look at the price of him. 50s and 66 to 1. I might even just have a £1 win on him because he has the form. He needs to be weighted with. Last time out, they went forward on him at Ascot, sorry. Yeah, doesn't want to lead. His run at Kempton was fine, and before that, there was some good form. He was actually 2nd this time last year. He was beaten 2.5 lengths by West of the Bridge, who's actually our top-rated horse here. That day, West of the Bridge was effectively £1 less than 50 Ball. Tomorrow, they are going to be running off 136 to 126, £10. So he's £11 worse off. Is West of the Bridge and Spirit 50 Ball. So I think I'm just going to have the £1 win on 50 Ball, just in case, because that would be hugely frustrating if he was to win this. So there's my thoughts for Friday. I like Lossiemouth. I think they know that that's their best horse, and she will take all the beating. Sharjah and Hunter's Yarn are the 2 angles for Willie Mullins, and the big price one is Glory and Fortune, who's off a very similar weight to when winning a good Betfair hurdle. Just Favre Deschamps doing the Albert Bartlett. I think Aplutar will not be running here if he wasn't ready. And the 2 outsiders that have chances, I think, are Manila Indo and Ahoy Senor. Don't want anything in the Fox Hunters. Just Impervious in the Martin Pipe. Iroko, Might Eye and Cool Survivors, the main ones in the Martin Pipe. And a small bet on 50 Ball. So thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the racing. Hopefully by the time we get to this race tomorrow, we'll have had a few more winners. We've had some good ones this week. Obviously, probably Langer Down was the best one for me, having highlighted the Coral Cup, not the Martin Pipe, back in, I think it was October of last year. And it was great to see him get up late on.